Good evening. Calling to order the May 3rd meeting of the ZBA. Paul Drapanos could not make it tonight because of a family emergency, so I've appointed Debbie as the alternate to sit in his place. And if you could identify yourselves, and happy to have you make a presentation.
Yes, I'm Bruce Alec from Bruce Alec and Associates, the civil engineer, and we're out of Marlborough.
Attorney Sandra Austin from Marlborough, representing Colt Realty LLC.
Okay.
I'm Steve Garofalo, Colt Realty.
Thank you. So I'm sure everyone's reviewed the application package. As you, the application package states, Steve,
Excuse me, ma'am, you need to bring that mic closer to you.
Closer?
Yeah, thank you.
how's that?
There you go.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. So Colt Realty LLC owns a single-family house at 5 Hillside Ave. It's an old house. I'm not sure if anyone's gone by and see it, or if you've got the pictures in your package. So it's a prior non-conforming structure. It's a single-family. So under Chapter 48, Section 6, if you're going to do any alteration or reconstruction of a single-family house that is going to change or expand it, then you need to make a determination whether or not that change or expansion is actually detrimental, substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what is existing there. So back in January, Steve went to see your building commissioner, Mr. Robideau, and at that time, we discussed the proposed change that Colt Realty wanted to do at the property. We talked about your zoning bylaw and what that interpretation actually looked like. So at that time, I wrote Steve, he asked me to do an analysis, which I did, and I have copies if you prefer to see the analysis. If you've not, would you like?
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Might be easier.
Do you have another copy?
I do.
Okay, good. Yeah, two. Okay, thank you.
Just one more for the record. Thank you.
Yes.
Huh?
Oh, no, it doesn't, no.
Oh, good, because that would be my copy. Okay. So, the premises is a single-family home. It's located in Residence B, and was purchased by Colt Realty on August 9th. So, what the Colt Realty is looking to do is to actually take the house down, rebuild it on the same footprint, and add a 2-car garage. So the question becomes, what kind of permit actually is required? Is that an as-of-right permit, or does it require a special permit? The first part of the analysis required that Steve and the commissioner look at the ordinance to see if it could be done as of right. You have a very strict bylaw where that's concerned, and it could not be done. I'm sorry, I'm looking at I don't know the, it could not be done under the bylaw as it was, as just an expansion. So the second part of the analysis becomes, which, if you look on page, probably the easiest way to do this is to look on page 3, at the bottom where I have procedure. After reviewing the application and the plan, a determination is made as to the manner in which the structure does not conform with the bylaw, and whether the application is seeking to extend or alter the structure, and how. So what Steve is looking to do is to add, taking the structure down to the foundation and actually adding a second story completely to where the foundation is, and adding the garage. So, So because it doesn't fit into the ordinance as of right, he needs to come before you. You need to make the determination that it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood to do what he's doing than what's currently existing there. Bruce is gonna first explain what it is that he's doing, then we can circle back around and talk about the analysis more. I know that, what I did see for a publication is different. I know that the publication said that he was seeking a special permit pursuant to your section 174-9B, is it? E. 174, section 9E has 3 requirements in there, one of which is the substantially detrimental, not more substantially detrimental than what's there. The second requirement is that it's not going to increase the extent of the nonconformance in size or impact. And the third is that the cost is not going to exceed 50% of the assessed value. Those second two, the second and the third requirements, go beyond that which Chapter 48, Section 6 allows for a requirement for a single family. So to the extent that that needs to be explained further, because that's not something that the board has handled in the past, I'm happy to do that after Bruce makes his presentation.
Before we do that, I just remembered, I forgot to have the notice of the public hearing read. And then at some point, Karen, I'm going to ask you to read in the 2 letters that we got. So then you'll know what those comments are, and you can address those.
Letters are written.
That's right.
So notice of public hearing, Colt Realty LLC, Mr. Stephen Garofalo, 5 Hillside Avenue, Southborough, Mass. The Board of Appeals of the Town of Southborough will hold a public hearing in the Thomas J. McAuliffe Hearing Room of the Southborough Townhouse, 17 Common Street, on Wednesday, March 22nd, 2017, at 7 p.m. with regard to the petition of Mr. Stephen Garofalo, Colt Realty LLC, 159 Shawmut Ave, Marlborough, 01752. The petitioner is seeking a special permit to remove and replace house on existing foundation and addition of a 2-car garage. Relief is requested pursuant to section 174-9.E, special permits for non-conforming uses, lots, and structures, and section 174-19A, non-conforming structures. A copy of the application may be reviewed at the office of the building department located at 9 Corderville Road, Southborough, Mass. During normal business hours. Andrew R. Dennington, Chairman.
We got a letter from Michelle Walker, right? And
March 22nd, 2017, from Michelle Walker, 11 Lyman Street. To whom it may concern, I am writing to express my concerns regarding the proposal submitted by Colt Realty LLC, Stephen Garofalo, regarding 5 Hillside Road, Southborough, Mass. Of particular concern is the reoccurring issue with runoff and issues caused by further disturbing an unstable ground in the vicinity. Prior to 1999, the lot at 11 Lyman Street would not perk because it was essentially swampland with a stream running through it. In 1999, after a 5-week drought during which the lot was clear-cut, the land passed the perk test, thus paving the way for the house at 11 Lyman to be built. 5 truckloads of fill were deposited in order for the septic system to be built upon the lot. Nevertheless, we had water coming into the basement. It was determined that there was an active underground stream flowing through my property. The diversion of that water has in turn caused similar flooding issues at 8 Lyman Street and 9 Lyman Street. Both owners have paid to remediate these problems over the years. Since then, however, additional cracks have developed in the foundation of 11 Lyman Street, again allowing water to penetrate. These cracks developed and began leaking after Cult Realty LLC removed a multitude of mature trees and installed a septic system. It is my belief that the disruption to the soil and the surrounding earth caused some of the cracks and all of the new leaks to occur. It was a cost of $2,000 on January 20th, 2017 to repair the foundation wall and stop the leaks. See attached. I am gravely concerned that the level of construction and increased footprint of the structures will further exacerbate the instability of the surrounding soil and thus create additional costly problems for the properties at 11, 9, and 8 Lyman Street. Additionally, it's so close to the property line and is already a non-conforming lot, and part of what is attractive about Southborough is that we have houses that are proportionate to the lot. And here, you're basically going to have a structure that takes up all of the unusable space on the lot, or all the usable space on the lot, and thwarting the rationale for bylaws. Should the board determine that notwithstanding these problems, the variance should be granted, I would ask that Colt Realty LLC be required to pay a $10,000 bond to be held in escrow for 3 years for use to remediate problems with foundations and/or water that occur to the aforementioned properties. Additionally, I request that the plan be amended to require the planting of mature trees along the property lines to absorb runoff and underground water and provide a screen for privacy. If the proposed two-car garage will not allow sufficient room for such plantings, I suggest that the solution is to reduce the size of the structure to allow space for the necessary trees. Thank you for your consideration. Best regards, Michelle Walker. Letters dated May 3rd, 2017, to the Zoning Board of Appeals. This letter serves to document our concerns regarding the 5 Hillside Avenue Colt Realty LLC request for a special permit to remove and replace the house on the existing foundation with addition of a 2-car garage. Our primary concern is that the proposed non-conforming structure at 5 Hillside Ave will be substantially more detrimental than the existing structure. The proposed non-conforming structure will increase surface and roof water runoff from 5 Hillside Ave to the adjacent lots at lower elevation, including our property at 9 Lyman Street. Additionally, the severe grade, at least an 8-foot drop over a short distance, will cause channeling of water directly onto our property. We have a known history of excess water at 9 Lyman Street. In 2007, Professional Basement Waterproofing installed a full perimeter French drain system and sump pump with sump basin. In 2011, the sump pump was replaced due to heavy usage. Most recently, in January 2017, the sump pump was replaced for a second time as a result of overuse. The excessive pump usage began following the removal of the several trees and installation of a septic system at 5 Hillside Ave. Following these changes, the sump pump at 9 Lyman Street was actively pumping water every 5 to 15 minutes. Additional surface and roof water runoff will undeniably have a negative impact on our property at 9 Lyman Street. We request that any relief granted to reconstruct a non-conforming structure at 5 Hillside Ave include conditions or assurance that there will be no increased or channelized surface or roof water runoff onto our property. Sincerely, Caitlin and Kevin Black.
Okay, and then, sir, did you want to continue your presentation?
Yes. Yeah, for the record, my name is Bruce Alec from Bruce Alec and Associates, civil engineers. And we did the plan that's before you in this application. And, we received the communications from the abutters today. And if I could, I have plans up there, so if I can just take this off.
Yeah, to take the mic with you.
You all can see from that location, or do you need
I
it
can
closer?
see it.
We also have,
Closer, actually.
Should turn it a little
Can
bit.
you see it, Lee?
No, Bruce, you can
Oh,
bring
okay.
The whole easel closer?
sure. Oh, move it over this way? Sure. Okay. Yeah, I get that. How's that? Is that better?
That works, okay.
See? All right, okay, good. I have also a handout here, copies, if you can pass these over. Thank you. So this plan here is the proposed plan, but let me just put that down for a second, go to the existing conditions we have here today. Okay, so this is existing conditions site right here. So what you have is the lot area, which is just under 10,000 square feet, shown here, rectangular, square. The Hillside Ave is here. I kind of blew this up a little bit so it'd be easy to see. The road, this is the edge of pavement, so it's kind of offset in this direction on this side. So there's quite a significant distance between edge of pavement and the actual property line, which is pretty close to the house there. There's a porch that's off on this side of the west side of the house that's going to be removed. This represents a little paved area. It's kind of broken asphalt. The driveway is, in brown here, is a dirt driveway. Now what's interesting about this site, it's recently got a new septic system put in 8 months ago. They installed it last September. So that was installed by Steve, put that in. What's interesting about this site that struck me was that this driveway from here to here, I don't know if you've been out to the site, but significantly lower than the edge of pavement. It's approximately 5 feet lower. So if you're parking your car is going to be 5 feet down here. And the other thing is that the road pitch is in this direction, all the way across. The high point of this road is way up here someplace, and the road pitch is going this direction. There was erosion caused here, and there's erosion caused in this location. So I recommended to Steve that to take care of this problem would be a couple things. One of them is to pitch the driveway back to the road, number one. So on the proposed plan, we're proposing a 3% pitch from the garage to the road, so a constant pitch. So everything's pitching back to the road this way. The other,
Excuse me, sir, what is the black line going across?
this is the edge of pavement right here,
What is that?
the edge of pavement. So this is the edge of the road. This is the edge of
And
the actual road.
the lower line is the property line, is that correct? Right, that,
Yeah, the road is actually offset on this side. So we located the edge of pavement on this side of the road. So the pavement edge is closer towards the center of the right-of-way. That's just the way they constructed
Lower
it.
line is the town property line.
The lower line is the town property line right over here.
Right, so the town owns that, just, all right, and you know.
That's right. So there's a significant distance between the actual edge of pavement and the right-of-way in this case. So to alleviate that problem with the drainage, what we're proposing here is to pitch the driveway back in towards the street. So instead of being 5 feet below the edge of pavement, the garage will be from here to here, will be, to this point, will be about 3 feet above, just under 3 feet. So it'll be a significant pitch going back towards the road. There's no need to have the driveway coming in to the property like that. It causes a lot of problems. The other thing is, we talked about, there's a problem here on the road itself because, like I said, it's pitching this way, all the way down. So the other thing that I suggested to him is that we contact the DPW and either get permission to install curbing, or, himself, or have the DPW itself correct the problem, because it is a town problem that's been created by the town. And Karen Galligan has agreed, and there's a letter from her to the board giving authorization to the town crews to, once it meets budget, to put in a curb line, which will run the full length of the side of the road down to Lyman Street, turn the corner of Lyman Street, and go down to the first driveway around the corner, which is 11 Lyman Street. So in that letter that she that was attached, should be attached to your paperwork over there, she indicates in the second paragraph what she is authorizing to do. I could read that to you if you like.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it by email.
Okay, yep.
Here it is, Dave. Just goes further and we can read it.
So in the second paragraph, she talks about the authorization in there. So I think that's a good thing. It's responsible for the DPW to do that because there are some impacts right now. Let me just show you those impacts. I went one step further to just take a look at how much water is actually coming down in there. And so this represents, and I hope you can see that, that's a handout I gave you, what's happening drainage-wise. This is taken off the town GIS plan over here. So we have here is the lot area right here, number 5, Hillside Ave. This area here represents off-site drainage coming from the north side, the road itself, and the north side of Hillside. So this area here represents what's draining down off-site into the property currently, flows down into the properties of number 5 Hillside and the abutters, which is 9 Lyman Street and 11 Lyman Street, flows out. And right down here at the south corner, front right corner of the 9 Lyman Street, there are 2 catch basins. And that's where that drainage is picked up. So it flows this way, flows across the yards, and then down to these catch basins. So it was apparent that that wasn't the intention. The intention is to have the street runoff stay down the street. And so what Karen had indicated in her letter is that she's going to redirect it down Hillside Ave, around the corner, down Lyman Street, and back towards those 2 catch basins over there. So that would eliminate all of this runoff, which represents, and I put a little table on the side here. So it's about an acre of land here. A lot of it's impervious, but it's an acre of land. And just to give you an idea of the proportion of what total drainage is flowing into the property, because there's some drainage coming off of the subject site. There's some drainage coming off the back neighbor here at 18, number 18. So the green area represents the other abutter in the back, number 18. So some of this, their property drains into either 11 or 9. That represents this green area here, which is 0.21 acres, and almost an equal amount. Number 5 here is about 2.23 acres. So we have approximately 70% of the drainage area is coming from off-site that is flowing to these neighbors' property. So I believe that this will be a significant reduction, this mitigation that Steve is going to take care of. And I think that's going to take care of a lot of the problems, because we've seen the letters. We know that the groundwater is high. Steve had to raise his septic system when that was put in. It was a raised system. The groundwater has been known to be high in that area due to the soils. We have a hillside till that's got a high groundwater table. It's been documented by the 2 letters there that since 1999, the abutter could not build until they put in a lot of fill to raise the whole site to build a septic system. And then in 2007, it's documented that there's been significant problems with the basement. And all of that is historically known, and it's common knowledge at this point. I feel that, there's always going to be high groundwater in that area because you're on a hillside of a drumlin or a hill, and you're going to have till soil, and you're going to have high groundwater. But what's not making it any better is they have runoff from the street coming into your property and making it worse. So I believe that the site, from a drainage standpoint, will be significantly reduced. The other thing, too, is that, and I told you that this area represents about 0.2 acres, but under proposed conditions, that's under existing conditions, under proposed conditions, it'll be less than that because doing further mitigation in there, which is to take this whole front end and then bring it out to the street, so it'll be that much less runoff that's going to be going into the lot. So we're subtracting this out, putting that into the road as well, so it'll be reduced significantly more. So two things compounded together are going to make it a little bit better over there. It'll minimize the impacts, not only to the subject property, but also to the abutters. Thank you.
Shall we open it up to questions? Debbie?
Hi, thank you. Currently, you mentioned that the driveway is a stone driveway right now?
It's dirt right now.
It's dirt, okay. Is it planned to be paved?
Yes, it's going to be paved, and it's going to be, the configuration's going to be reduced as far as the area. So this, you can see this.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, so this area here represents the pavement area that's proposed, and this area represents the dirt driveway that's there now, and actually part of it crosses over to the abutter's property there.
But
So-
first, there is a piece there that is in fact paved currently, right?
This is paved, so the gray area is paved. It's like a broken asphalt that remains. The rest of this is just dirt that's in there. So the brown is dirt, and this gray area here is, at least the gray highlight area is paved. So this whole area is going to be replaced with a smaller footprint that's going to be paved. And the thing about this is pitching down this way, whereas this proposed footprint, which is smaller, is going to be pitched back to the road. Including, I was just told by Steve today that he's going to have his architect set the roof pitch so it pitches back this way. So half of the roof pitch for the garage will also go to the driveway and out to the street as well.
Okay, and so I'm looking at the square footage of the house presently, and I guess once it's rebuilt is 38 by 30, I think. And the proposed garage is 25 by 25, and you'll have additional pavement where you have some broken pavement now, but mostly it's dirt. So you have now more pavement and structures, and I just wondered if you can tell me what is the impact to the water? So there's a lot of water coming down, right? And you are probably doubling the size of the concrete that's there, or material that's being used for the driveway. So what happens to the water? So you have proposed some mitigations for the direction of the water and a berm that you've been working with the DPW, but I'm just wondering if you have more concrete, you're covering the ground, what happens from an engineering perspective, or what happens to the water? How does that impact the property and also the runoff?
Okay, let me just grab a highlighter here. Okay, what's going to happen is there's going to be less runoff overall. The bottom line is going to be less runoff to the subject property, 5 Hillside, and also 9 and 11, because this area here, and I'm just going to highlight it here, is flowing back, and I'm just going to crosshatch it. So this area is going to flow back to the road. So that is no longer, this area right here is not going to go on this property. It's going to flow off this property. It's not going to go onto the neighbors. Where right now, so you have effectively, as far as from a drainage standpoint, you're going to have this half of this garage here, which is 12 by 25, and then the stairway area, which is probably 10 by 10 or something like that. So it's going to be a very small, maybe 100 square feet here, and then you're probably gonna have, less than 3,000 square feet over here. Let's see, 12 by 25, no, it's more like 200, 300 square feet. So 300, maybe 400 square feet, additional pavement, or impervious area that's gonna be added to the lot. But when you factor in what's being subtracted out, it's gonna be a net reduction in as far as surface area and also runoff. That's gonna happen there, because there's two things happening here. We're taking drainage away, but we're adding about 300 square feet, 300 or 400 square feet of impervious area. So there's gonna be a net reduction in runoff coming into the abutters lots. It's gonna be leaving the lot. So that, compounded with the fact that we're gonna reduce the area of drainage by 70% is gonna be quite a significant, from off-site, because with 70% off-site, this is gonna take a significant part out of the site. So there's gonna be less water runoff from the 5 Hillside Street to the abutters. And they're not gonna get the off-site drainage, because we have a curbing along here, so that's gonna be taken away as well.
Thank you.
And also the fact that the runoff coefficient for a driven over dirt is slightly less than pavement. It's still a lot. You still get a lot of runoff from dirt that's driven over. It's a little bit less, but not that much. So it's still significant. I think it's like a 98 curve number versus like an 80 curve number. So it's a small reduction in dirt, but it's still a significant number.
Thank you.
Thanks. So on the proposed structures, are there plans for gutters to also divert from the roof? Because I think that to Debbie's point, you've got more roof area clearly. I mean, you do keep your existing 3 bedrooms, so I get that, but obviously, with the roof area, what's the plan? Are the gutters?
Yeah, on the garage, the front of the garage is going to be, and I'll put that other one back up. The front of the garage is going to have a gutter, and will the house have gutters?
Yes.
Okay, so the house will have gutters too. Just want to put that one back up as proposed. So I suppose, because the roof line is going this way,
Right, I would imagine.
the front gutter line could be, if it's directed out towards, say, this driveway, because now the driveway's pitching this way, you'll take half of this roof houses out as well. Didn't even think about that. So you can just run the leader out to the driveway, and it's going to go down the road. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the concern is water, so everything you can do to mitigate that, obviously, is to the benefit of the neighborhood.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have a problem with making that a condition? Yeah, gutters, and because we can take this gutter for the front half of the roof and direct it out to this driveway. It's going to simply go out to the road, because it's going out 3% in that direction.
And the driveway, where you're showing the edges, is there some sort of curbing to make sure it's not running down the hillside, that it's actually going the direction that you say it's going to go?
Yeah, we're pitching it this way. There is a steep pitch along the road.
Right.
So the road is pitching in this direction, and recalling that is a 3% pitch, which is quite significant. On top of that, we're adding a 1-inch lip, we call lip, bituminous lip. So you have that, plus you're sloping up. So any water that's coming down along here is going to stay going down the road.
I guess the question was, off the garage, what's the confidence that runoff is going down the driveway? I know you got a pitch there, but is there any sort of curbing to make sure it does go that way and doesn't go? Because if it goes off, as I'm looking at it to my left,
on the west side,
it's going to end up in the neighbors again.
Yeah, we have a note right here. This is proposed bituminous drive with 2-inch high bituminous berm by builder.
Okay.
Provide 3% grade slope from garage to the road.
So there is a berm
This is a
there.
curb. on the driveway as well. So anything that's on here is going to be held by this curb. So anything that's coming, there's no curb over here proposed, because everything will come in, and it's pitching this way, and there's a curb going this way. So everything's going to be held by that
Pitched
curb.
away from the house, yeah.
Exactly.
In the septic, where's the septic located? And
Septic is right in here.
is that historically where it was, or is that a new location?
That's a new location.
New
It's
location.
installed last September.
Is that the tank or the leach field?
Tank is over here.
Okay.
It's kind of gray tone, so it doesn't show up too well on.
Yeah, it's
on the
hard to
plan,
pick
but
up.
This is the soil absorption system right here. This is the tank and the D-box between the tank and the system leaching area.
Okay, and I'm sorry, that was installed when?
Last September 2016.
It was perked then, too? Yes. Okay. All right. And I did take a look at the property, so I understand that it's really hilly. Just out of curiosity, you really don't have, if I'm looking at this north and south, you really don't have any options for any other runoff to out the southern part of the property? Because it looks like the current concern is it comes off the west side into 9 and 11, right? And so the front half, we're saying, oh, that's going to go down the driveway. But you have the back half of the house and the back half of the garage. And I know that's less, but
Yeah, this is
where's that go?
Yeah, this is going out, and I could show you on a general plan here, but it's actually on this plan. It's actually going in this direction.
Right. Yeah, I think
So-
that's what you indicated on the other map.
Yeah, the contours are kind of running this way, and that's heading down towards Lyman Street. So this is way too low to, as far as grade goes, to get it back up.
Right. Right. No, I understand. I'm just curious. Like, when it goes that way, I guess it's onto really the neighbor who's just south.
Yeah, there's no way of redirecting it
Right,
because
right.
that's the way historically it's always gone. And you can see the contours.
Yeah, and that's
going
you're
direction.
that green area is where you're showing that basically where it's coming off the property now.
Yeah, this is the back piece that's off, but this little square here, that's the 5 hillside. That's a
Right.
10,000 square foot lot. So it's going from almost like you can see the contours are going from this corner to that corner of the lot. Everything's pitching that direction. So I think that he's doing everything he possibly can by sending half the house, half the garage runoff out to the street, plus the entire driveway.
Right.
Putting curb in, on the driveway, and then arranging to have the curb installed on Hillside Avenue, which is proposed by the DPW.
And yeah, and the DPW's thought is that if you have that curbing going around down towards Lyman Street, around the corner to the driveway,
So this driveway here,
that's going to allow that water to run off to the catch basins at
Correct.
the end of the street.
because by this time you're on the road and it's going straight
And
down
you do
the
have a
hill.
pitch there, yeah.
And the catch basins are right over here.
Okay.
At that point, it's only like less than 150 feet away or so. It's
Okay.
a straight shot. So the problem is everything is kind of going sideways across these lots right now. And I think that once they lay this curb in along this section here, that's also going to take some water for this section as well, which includes everything that's coming onto the road from that side. It's going to improve, I think, 11 significantly because they're going to have this shield here of a curb, taking anything that's coming off this section as well as here. So that they're going to get the added benefit of having more curbing on that uphill side.
And the timing of that, is the town going to be able to do that, or is that really
Yeah,
going to
in
be Mr. Garofalo? And that's their timeline? Okay.
They wrote something,
Yeah.
she said July.
Okay, thank you.
I think when I read Karen Galligan's letter, it said that they agree it, but they can't commit to any timeline.
Because they don't have the
Sir,
budget
can you
until,
use the microphone?
they don't have the budget until the new budget. So she said July was when they had the money coming again with the new budget. And she said she told me specifically she'd try to find some money somewhere before that, and if I couldn't wait, I could do it myself, but we'll wait for them.
Okay. I don't think that was in the letter, though. That might have been a conversation. Unless it-
No, he's right, it does say
I missed
that
that
we
part.
can't commit, we can't commit to a timeline for the work.
Told me July.
Okay.
I thought it was in the letter.
So the letter's dated April 27th from Karen Galligan, and it says Steve Garofalo came in to discuss his property at 5 Hillside Ave. I reviewed the plan with Mr. Garofalo. Currently, a retaining wall and steps are on the public right-of-way. Although on the right-of-way, the items are off of the traveled way. This condition has existed for many years and doesn't currently inhibit the traveled way or any current plans for the area. However, the town takes no responsibility for these features or any other privately owned property on the right-of-way. Also, Mr. Garofalo has requested that an asphalt berm be installed along the southern edge of the road in front of his property due to storm water coming off the road onto his property and then flowing onto the property at 11 Lyman Street. I believe that the berm will have to be carried beyond the property line around the corner of Lyman and Hillside into the driveway of 11 Lyman Street. The DPW will have a contractor install this berm during our paving contract, but the DPW can't commit to a timeline for the work. The property owner has permission to install this berm in the right-of-way and along the traveled way, should they choose to do so. The berm will not remain private property.
So a conversation you had with her said something about timing.
She specifically said that was the day of or the day before she was supposed to go to a meeting about the budget. And she said, I'm going to get money and I will be able to do it in July, but I can't do it now. I assume July is, the end of June is
Beginning
probably,
of the next fiscal
Yeah.
year. So, okay. What's the current FAR of the house?
What's the question?
The current FAR? Floor area ratio for the lot, to the house to the lot?
Yeah,
And what's it?
Sorry, you gotta use the microphone.
38 by 28 is the foundation size,
so it's probably, as far as
two
the.
stories.
Yeah, if you look at the 2 stories, it's probably like a .2, below .25, probably like a .24 or something like that.
And the proposed?
Oh, no, that's the proposed.
That's the
Because I think
proposed.
the floor area is, what, 2,300, 2,400, 2,200, right? 2,200 square feet.
2270.
20, okay, so .23 then, because 10,000 square foot lot, so it's .23.
Okay.
And existing, I'm not sure what the existing square footage is in there. It's the same footprint. I don't know how they quantify the top story there. I haven't been inside the house. Got to check the assessors.
There are portions that are not, don't have a second story currently.
Yeah, so the first floor, and then if you do some portion of the second floor, not sure what percentage of that, it's gonna be less than what's proposed, because proposed is gonna be a full 2-story, where existing is 1.5 story.
Right.
So there's gonna be some, I don't know what the factor is, normal factor is, what, 3/4 of, or half, or whatever the number is, but it's gonna be something less than that .23.
What does the assessor's card read?
What were the figures looking for?
The floor area.
Oh, okay. Main floor area, 1,064. It says upstairs, up floor area, 548. Total floor area, 1612.
Okay, so it's gonna be .16 then.
It's existing. Okay. Let's see, we talked about water. So, maybe this is a question for the attorney, but what's the definition of extension or alteration? I have a really hard time wrapping my head around tearing down something completely and calling that an alteration. So I'm just,
So, yeah. Yeah. Well, you wouldn't be the first person that had a challenge with Chapter 48, Section 6. It's like the longest sentence, I think, in the world. It's like 10 lines long. It is acceptable to actually remove the structure and replace the structure on a foundation, on the same foundation. So it's a change, alteration, or reconstruction. If you look actually at the first part of that statute, which I think is Exhibit A. So the concept of extension is actually, making it larger than it was, which is
Right.
essentially, there have been so many cases on this very topic. So for a while, the courts said as long as you stayed on the same footprint, there was this concept that was okay, even if you went up. Then later on, a determination was made that if you're adding square footage, like as in this case, just even adding square footage to the same footprint is considered an extension or alteration, even though the space that you're extending is really just up and not out.
mhm.
So in theory, you're not, the same concept would really apply where when you would sometimes see where there would be a wall that would just be up somewhere.
Right.
And you'd say, what is that, right? To reserve that ability to do a reconstruction.
And at one point, your explanation, you said to keep the same foundation, and then you said just footprint. So
So the same foundation, building on the same foundation and remaining in that foundation is keeping the same footprint.
so are you planning on reusing the fieldstone foundation?
Yes.
Yes. It's poured concrete.
Oh, is it? I thought I saw fieldstone. Okay.
Well, there's a lot going on in that house over there right now, so it's hard what your eye is attracted to.
So you did your analysis and you came to the conclusion that the request isn't the by right.
I did find that, I was looking furiously for it before, and it's the last attachment, the by right.
But you found that it,
So, no, unfortunately,
okay,
that's what brings us here. So it's 174,
19,
19B.
right. So, and since we're not in one of these that it's by right, wouldn't it go back up to 174-19A as kind of our determining, since we're no longer by right and we now need to look at it in terms of a special permit?
And that's the challenging part. So, and that's what actually requires the analysis, because the first piece talks about, the 174-19A talks about nonconforming structures and uses generally, right? Those are otherwise, but anything besides a residential, single, or two-family. And B is specifically in your bylaw refers to single-family residential structures. But the statute actually provides additional protections for single and two-family prior nonconforming structures.
Massachusetts statute.
Correct, Massachusetts, Chapter 48, Section 6, which is the nonconforming statute. That's Exhibit A. And I outlined that, what's known as that second accept clause, and marked it where I've circled around. So accept, so if this extension was actually anything but a single or two-family, it would in fact fall under that section of your bylaw, which would be the 174-19A. But because it's a single-family house, it falls under this part of the ordinance, which, I mean, of the statute, which says, except where alteration, construction, extension, or structural change to a single or two-family residential structure does not increase the nonconforming nature of the structure. Pre-existing nonconforming structures or uses may be altered, provided that no such extension or alteration shall be permitted unless there is a finding by the permit granting authority or by the special permit granting authority designated by ordinance or bylaw that such change, extension, or alteration shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing nonconforming use to the neighborhood. So it requires sort of this two-part analysis, which is first this determination, what's going to be done, whether or not that's non-conforming, and then, which, yes, it is here. And then the determination needs to be made, is that substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than not? So it's by the special permit granting authority, so it's commonly referred to as a Chapter 48, Section 6 finding. But you can't put additional requirements, such as your bylaw, that 174-9E, that you put for all your other structures in there, saying that the cost can't exceed 50% of the assessed value, or that it can't increase the extent of the nonconformance in size or impact, because that violates that special provision that's provided for single and two families under the statute. There's actually a case, one of the cases I attached, if you go to Exhibit B, which is Goldhirsch versus McNair, one on the page that's numbered 3. On the top of the right-hand side, right here. It says, as to single or two-family residence structures to which the statute appears to give special protection, the zoning ordinance or bylaw applies to reconstruction, extension, or change that would intensify the existing conformities or result in additional ones. And the question then becomes, in the next paragraph, as set out in Willard versus the Board of Appeals of Orleans, and it gives a reference, an application for changes to a residential structure requires a Board of Appeals to identify the particular respect or respects in which the existing structure does not conform to the requirements of the present bylaw, and then, the second part, determine whether the proposed alteration or addition would intensify the existing nonconformities or result in additional ones.
And if I can interject here, I think that the thing which is non-conforming right now is it just the front setback that?
It's the front setback in the area, lot size.
Yeah, lot size, I think, isn't really anything that we can say, because it's an existing non-conforming on a non-conforming lot. I think that's pretty clear that we can't ding them for the lot at this point.
Just the two.
What do you mean by that?
The side
Craig.
yard.
But I thought, in reading the bylaw, even 19B3, it said to the extent that, something around the extent, and I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not reminded.
It's Exhibit B, a D in the back, 19,
Yeah.
19B3, alteration to a
The provisions of
structure.
this clause shall apply regardless of whether the lot complies with current area or frontage requirements.
Right, and that's
think
to
just because
do
it's a-
as of by right.
Right, and so because the lot's small, we can't ding them on the fact that the lot's too small anymore.
Yes, we can.
I'm not reading it that way. So, okay, but Andrew, what were you were trying to make a point?
just a very basic question, why is it non-conforming? And I think,
So
Attorney
it's-
Austin,
Yes, it's the frontage and the lot size.
so in Res B, you've got a 30-foot front setback requirement, and this is kind of a strange property where there almost is no front.
Yeah, it's like 1.5 feet, it looks like.
Yeah.
What did you say?
It's right on the line.
Yeah,
Instead of a
and
30-foot
actually-
setback, it looks like 6-inch setback.
And their retaining wall to make it all work is in the right-of-way. So there's like
Wrong
zero
on the
setback,
30-foot setback.
negative setback.
Retaining wall's in the right of way. It's 1.6 feet off that corner.
Okay.
Yeah,
But that's pre-existing non-conforming.
right.
Exactly.
And the lack of proper frontage and lack of proper lot size is pre-existing non-conforming. So, all right. I think that's it for me for right now. Still trying to wrap my head around the crossover between 174.19 and 174.9. So,
Yeah, it's a challenge, and it's just because if this was anything besides a single or two-family,
well, but it also says in the Mass General Law 1, unless we find that what's being proposed is
substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what's existing.
right, and I read, or I saw something about Portland versus ZBA Norwell, where any larger increase increases the nonconformity of the lot. So,
So an increase increases the nonconformity, but the question is, so what it actually says is, that goes back to the two-part, right? So once you've reached that decision, that yes, it's going to increase any nonconformities,
Right.
any existing nonconformities, it's going to increase those. Does that in fact itself have a substantially more detrimental effect on the neighborhood?
right, and that's
Because it
kind
is,
of the
yes,
vague
anything you
gray
do.
area of the question.
Right, because any alteration that you would make, right, to change anything on a prior
Increases the
nonconforming, by its
nonconformity.
very
Right.
definition, would in fact increase
So-
the nonconformity.
And the question is it substantially detrimental? So in
Substantially
your-
more detrimental
Right.
than
So in
existing.
your analysis, if under Chapter 40, we do decide that, is that the point that you think we'd then revert to 174.9, where we just look at it as a structure now? And, because we're no longer in our single-family residential kind of carve-out, and we're no longer in Mass 40A single-family residential carve-out, where do we then apply general special permit guidelines?
The additional guidelines that you have, which is increasing the extent of the nonconformance and the size and the impact and the greater than 50%,
Yeah,
you can't.
ever.
According to the statute and the case law, because the statute provides a special deference for single and two families.
Right, but if we find that it is substantially more detrimental, we can just deny it, or
That's
is
correct.
is there another part that we then review the merits outside of that? Just curious if that's,
So no, so that becomes the end of the analysis? Is that
Okay.
what you mean? The end
Yeah,
of the
that's
analysis?
it,
So if you say it is more substantially, it's substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what's currently existing, then you deny the permit. If you determine that it is not substantially more detrimental than what's currently existing, then you grant the permit.
okay,
And then with that permit, he goes ahead and seeks the building permit.
okay. Has there been any analysis of what sort of on-site retainage could be done for water runoff?
Yeah, I gave it some thought, and given the fact that one of the major problem here, I mean, you got two problems. One is surface runoff, the other one is
Right.
groundwater.
Yep,
And just from the evidence, I mean, the submittals you see before you, we knew that there was high groundwater here because we got a raised system and so on. that it would be probably not advantageous to put more water into the ground, only because then you're just impacting more basements, and that seems to be a problem here. So it's better to, rather than taking the water from the ground, leave it to the surface and get it off from going into the ground, because that's where the damage is being done. So as far as the remaining parts of the lot that are, by riparian rights are draining downstream, I would just leave them as surface flow the way it is. And as long as there's a nice lawn there, it's gonna take up, what it needs to take up, and by evapotranspiration, it'll use up a lot of the water, but at the same time, but just putting everything into the ground, upstream of people that have basement problems, I would
Yeah.
not recommend that.
And then on the berm coming around the corner onto Lyman Street, down to the driveway of 11, if we substantially increase the water running down Hillside and making that turn, are we not just asking for a whole bunch of more water hitting 10 Lyman, and crossing the street, and
Except that there is
is the pitch of the road crowned enough to?
the pitch of the road is fairly steep, and you can see from the contour plan, I can pull that out again. Let's take this. The contours, you can see there's
Yeah,
and driving up there, it's pretty evident that the water is going to come down.
right. But
And-
as you
and-
make that turn, if there's substantially more water, is it going to cross the road and hit the other side of Lyman?
I don't think so.
Are we just diverting the problem past 9 and 11 and giving it to 10 and 8?
It's gonna do the same, it's gonna go wherever gravity is stronger. In this case, once it gets around this corner, and it is a curve, it's gonna be taking it around a curve, and gravity is just gonna take it down here. Everything's gonna flow in the street.
Right, but it's still, based on the contour, it still wants to cross Lyman and hit.
It's not going that fast
Okay.
as far as,
I just want to make sure we're not trading two people's problems for two other people's problems.
yeah, you don't wanna solve one problem, cause another problem. I appreciate that. But it's what's happening is the water's traveling slow enough, and you're probably talking,
We got acre feet
3 to
of
4
yeah.
feet per second, 5 feet per, second, or something like that. It's not enough to carry, make a shoot across, like a water slide across the other side of the street in that case. And once it gets down here, it's very steep up here. You can see the contour, very close together. They start to flatten out a little bit on this side also. So the water's gonna slow down a little bit as it approaches Lyman Street.
Okay. All right, I know I said I was done before. This time I'll really do it.
Really doing it this time. All right, so a few major questions. One is, the size of the lot isn't a proper size for a lot in the town of Southborough. Now, the major issue on this here is the fact that under pre-existing houses that have been done, you can tear that house down and rebuild it on the foundation. You don't need any special permit to do that. But if you add this garage to this site, it changes the whole rules and regulations in the town of Southborough. And under the old rules and regulations, which were nice, and I am not against this being done, but it's the way in which it has to be done, that because of the addition onto it, and it's gotta be, 30 feet from the road, and the sideline and everything, and the area of the property where it's so small and everything, that basically you'd have to have a use variance, which as of 6 months ago or whenever, some people in this town voted to remove a use variance from the town, and the use variance has to go through come through us, and then go through a town meeting and stuff, and be approved. Before, it used to get approved by the board. But there's special, technicality. This lot it's less than 10,000 square feet. And these other lots in these areas, a little bit less than a half-acre lot. the old lots in town, the C lots, are no longer existing in the town of Southborough. The only thing is existing now are 1 acre lots and half-acre lots which are built on. But today, you can't build on a half-acre lot. It has to be a 1 acre lot. So to tear a building down and redo it, there's a technical issue that way, in the way it is done. And the water issue, I mean, I think everybody asked the right question. My only question is that when the water goes down the road, that does that now anyways. I mean, I've been up there, and the water does go down the road and around the corner, right? There's nothing going to increase that, is it? Because your water is, comes to your house, there's the wall in front of the house, that it makes it go down on the grass and everything, but it goes down to the other intersection, which it did before, and that's nothing different now, is it?
There's currently water running down, Hillside. Once it gets about to this point, I was looking at, there's no curbing there at all. There's no curbing
Right,
along
understood,
it,
yeah.
both of those roads. But the grass is just a little bit higher than the road at that point. Actually, once you get to this lot. So it looks like what's happening is, and it's kind of raveling the edge of the road. And so you get a little bit of erosion happening along the edge. So it's doing two things. It's getting into the shoulder a little bit, but it looks like most of it, maybe 90%, at least 90% or more, is going down. From this point down, it's making its way down to Lyman. It might be absorbing some in the ground along the shoulderway as it's going. The other thing that happens is without a curb, sometimes the water gets down to the subbase. Subbase is underneath the pavement, is a little more porous, so it's going to actually bring the water in there. So the bottom of the road might be taking more water, just like a big French drain, and that might be recharging the water, the ground, which you don't want to do either. So the curb will keep the water running down. So the water's running down there, but I think it's going to run down more efficiently, and it's going to have less an impact to the groundwater, which is really the key issue here, I think. Right now, this section of it, if you go up there, you'll see it's tilting to the side here. That's one of the problems, and that's why there's a problem here right now.
But what you're doing is not creating it any worse, you're making it better than what it was existingly,
Correct.
right? So you're not creating anything extra or anything at all. All you're doing is technically by the location and the way you're set, if you didn't want to, you really didn't have to do anything with that water on the roadway, because that's not your responsibility. But you are working to get it done properly for the neighbors and whatever, correct?
Correct, that's right.
All right. The issue about the garage, the existing house basically is illegal, because it's only 14 feet from the street, from the existing town property.
It's a prior non-conforming structure.
What?
It's a pre-existing non-conforming structure.
Well, I mean, the regulation is always, then the thing about it is, that you're probably right in what you're saying, but if you change it, you have to do it under the new rules and regulations. That's why I'm saying that, you gotta try to do it under.
Well, that's why they're here for the special permit.
For a special permit or a use variance, I don't know whether or not the special permit, is enough to carry this because of the issue of it being so non-conforming.
So I don't think it's a use variance. They would need a use variance, because it's going to still be used for a residence.
Residential in a residential
It's just a
zone.
dimensional, well, it's not even any variance. It's just it's a special permit for an extension, alteration, change.
The addition is the major issue.
It's the garage, because I think what you're saying is if you were to put a new house right on the same foundation, you could just do that as of right. It's the garage which
So-
triggers this whole thing.
Right.
Yes and no.
Okay.
As
As long as it's
they always
still
like to
not,
say, it depends.
Okay.
Right, as long as you're not increasing the square footage, right? So by right is that if you weren't increasing the square footage, even if you stayed on the footprint, although your bylaw could provide additional abilities, rights for single families, which in that 174-19B 1, 2, and 3, there's some very strict but abilities for that to occur, which would make it as of right. And then if you can't do it, what you're trying to accomplish within that limitation, then it does require the finding.
Have you owned this house since it was built?
No.
You're-
Bought it last year in August.
Right, and the only reason is, in the files in the town, that particular lot doesn't show up anywhere. It does now, but it didn't back when that whole subdivision was done and stuff. Nor does that little lot across the street, which is the same way. Which, yeah.
Is that, you mean 8 is also weird and that the house is right on the
Yeah,
street?
it's the same size lot. That's 9,670 square feet. This one's 9,965 square feet. This one here is. No, so that's less than a quarter of an acre.
I guess what you're getting is, how did this all happen in this neighborhood there? These two properties that have these incredibly small
Well, the
lots.
thing is, if you look at, number 5 and number 18, that is all one lot.
Pardon me?
Well,
Number
was.
5 and number 18, we're all one lot. And this thing, if you look at the drawings,
Okay.
it was added, and if you look at the different papers in the assessor's office, it shows it, that, you can tell by it that it, it was added to it.
So the
And
people,
one on number 8 across the street is the same way.
so the people that I bought it from were living there for 43 years, and I bought it from them. So that it was like that for 43 years at least.
Yeah, it's been like that for a long time, so,
Yeah.
I mean, back then, who knows how it got built?
Well, it looks like it's pretty common. I mean, you got 8 Hillside, you got 5. If you look up at 21 Newton, that's looking like about a 10,000 square foot lot too.
What?
21 Newton, up at the top of this.
No, that's twice as big, because it goes all the way down to the road way down here.
That's the road.
No, this is not the road.
100, 100, 100.
Yeah, that's 10,000.
That's a 10,000 square foot lot.
So, but
So-
what I'm saying is, this.
I'm just
the
saying
one
it-
over here.
I'm just saying it happened a lot.
Yeah.
And we're
Oh,
not
yeah,
gonna
we
change
know.
that now. So,
Any more questions, Lee?
Not right now.
So I came in here and I thought that, the thing I was really focused on is the requirement in the bylaw that says we have to find that, that the alteration won't increase the extent of nonconformance. I'm sorry, the requirement that the cost of this can't exceed 50% of the assessed value of the nonconforming structure at the time of the application. So just from on the assessor's card, the assessed value, if you were to kind of just give you the benefit of the doubt, include everything, it would be 267.7, and then half of that is 133,850. I'm assuming
That would be
the
pretty amazing, wouldn't
so the
it?
cost
Right.
of this does exceed 100, does it? The cost of all this work would exceed 100.
Correct.
Okay, so I thought, I came in just thinking that basically, concludes it. No matter what the engineering says, we cannot grant this permit if that's not satisfied. Anyone that wants a copy of this, I can pass it down, exactly. But I hadn't read this brief that you submitted, and I'm just reading it right now, so in the future, it is helpful because I know this was filed with Mark, but anything that you want us to see, you can give to Karen. Yeah, so file it with Karen, and then she'll give it to all of us, so we can read it before the hearing. But it does say that,
My apologies. I didn't realize
that's
that I
okay.
didn't get to apologize.
and we can make that clearer, but you do cite a case which suggests that we can disregard that for single-family homes. Is that what you're arguing?
Single family and two family we only have that's the statute, but
So, I think my view is that there's a significant legal issue there, because I think you're basically saying that this part of our bylaw is not legal as to single-family and two-family homes?
what are you pointing to, 174-9E?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that's a pretty significant argument, because that's saying that a town bylaw is illegal. There have been some recent cases where our bylaws were found not legal,
So-
and that this board granted a permit, like in the Stonebrook Village case on Oregon Road. There was a requirement in the bylaw that said, you can only have a certain type of housing as long as it was owned by a nonprofit association or something like that.
Right.
The board granted that even though it arguably wasn't a nonprofit, and that was litigated all the way to the appeals court. And it was found okay, even though the board basically disregarded.
Yep.
The thing is, I just feel kind of uncomfortable right on the spot, accepting an argument that says the bylaw is illegal, because
S-
it says, I think the part that says amended 4/15/2008 ATM means that this was actually presented at the town meeting 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Presumably, town
Vetted
council
by
at
town
that time
council.
thought about it. So we've had a whole series of matters that have just been continued and continued and
Been
continued.
So,
So,
Just to-
question,
if it's okay, if I could just comment on
Yes.
Mr. Dennington's comment. Your bylaw is not illegal. It very much applies. It just doesn't apply to what it is that we're looking for. We're actually looking, this is why when I said before, what we're technically looking for is a Section 6 finding, which is not identified really in anybody's bylaw. It's because it's a statutory finding. And this is a common issue when it comes to bylaws and ordinances, and there are changes that happen over the years with cases, and they're not always caught when the bylaws are done. Another one that's very common is the changes that have occurred for agriculture over the years, especially where it relates to like horses and pigs and those sorts of things, have not been changed. Am I hitting the spot? I know, sorry, but have not been changed often in bylaws and ordinances, but have been changed as a result of case law. This is one of those types of situations where the language here is standard language, but what we're asking you to do is to make a special permit Section 6 finding.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a comment on the way what you've said so far, and I think maybe the proper thing to do is have you sit and talk to town council and the building inspector. And the reason behind this is to do it so we get it properly, so after we make a decision, it's most unlikely it doesn't get appealed.
We actually
I've gotta go.
prefer,
That could
we
just-
actually prefer that. We would prefer
Yeah.
to have a good, solid decision, and
Written the right
that,
way.
and that you understand what it is that we're actually seeking.
And,
And I'm happy to sit with you and
I've got
Attorney
a
Cipriano.
suggestion, which is,
go ahead.
we are going to be here 1 week from today. And now we have one thing at 7 o'clock, which is super controversial and has been continued over and over again. And we've always said that we're not going to put anything else with it.
Yes, we did.
But I think Paul, at our meeting in the elementary school, had a good point. We should try to get back on a more regular schedule. So one thing we could do.
The third week of the month.
And I know that Aldo's gonna be here, no, because the Park Central Planning Board, 2 weeks,
yeah,
May 17th, so I could, if we, we could have Park Central on for 7. We could put you on for 8 o'clock. We might not get to you until like 8:30, and then that 2 weeks, I think, is enough time where we could put this issue to Aldo. Aldo would be here anyway, and he could give his view.
I have to make this a little complicated.
I think I've already made it pretty
No,
complicated.
I'm gonna
but-
make it worse complicated and apologize. I can't be here at the Park Central meeting. I'm not allowed to right now.
You want to do this first,
And
then?
I can't be in this room.
right.
And until you close the meeting, and
But-
I gotta come from my house, come back here, so I can be here at this meeting, because
Yep.
we only have the 5 people that are here. So, I mean, whatever we can do to make it right, I'll do it, but I'm just
Yeah.
suggesting that to you.
Okay,
Andrew.
before we do anything, I know this gentleman's been here patiently, and do you, I think you're in a butter, right, sir? Do you want to comment and let
I
us
was
know what you
gonna
think?
say, we let everybody who's here
Excuse me,
comment.
sir, why don't you get the mic from him, because you can do it from where you're sitting.
I didn't mean to overlook you there.
No, that's okay. It sounds like you're dealing with some technical issues. So I'm Paul Carter. I live at 5 Hillside Avenue.
Oh, you live at this property?
No,
I live directly across the street.
six.
Next will be back.
Six Hillside.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's an important
Sorry.
difference.
I'm glad I don't live at 5. I knew the people who lived
Yeah.
at 5, but they moved.
Here is 6.
I live at 6.
Oh, that's way back.
Yeah, and I have a question, I guess.
This is so-
Does
what
the
a
board have
strange-
any photos? Was any photos submitted as part of this?
We have photos of the house.
You have some, yeah.
Current-
Okay, so you do have photos. I didn't see, when I was given a copy of the submission, maybe I didn't ask for copies. Okay. As long as you have photos, because
We have
I
these
I took some photos just to be sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
We have the same ones as you're showing us, but ours are
Well, I'm
just
not-
a little bit smaller.
I'm not sure we do have the same photos.
Okay.
because he took theirs.
You could tell whether you think they're significantly different or not.
Have you shown these to, you want to take a look at
No.
these? They have them. You have them?
No, these are,
have others that look like that.
yeah, you have others that look like that.
Okay, why don't you take a look at them,
Can
just,
we see them first, please?
well, let her look at them first, then we'll.
They're the same ones in your package, it's just bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, they're probably similar. I just didn't have them in the package.
Okay.
I guess I'd like to make a couple of comments. One is that the existing house, as has been mentioned, is a 1.5 from the existing right-of-way. So it's essentially right on the right-of-way. It is Residence B, so it's supposed to have a 30-foot setback. Some of the other houses on the street are close, but they're not right on the right-of-way. You know, they probably are close to the 30-foot setback. They could be 25, I don't know. It's the top of a very steep crest curve. There's basically no sight distance on either side of that curve, so you gotta go really slow, and my driveway is right at the top of that curve too, so I have to be really careful in pulling out of my driveway. So having the house that close to the road makes it a little bit more on the dangerous side, and particular for the new house.
Excuse
being-
me, sir.
Yeah,
Your driveway is directly across from this house.
yeah, it's
what
pretty
that-
close, yeah.
That's what that.
You have the really
Yeah, that's
long
correct.
driveway.
Yes, I have the long
All right,
driveway, right.
that's what
Yep.
makes, yeah.
Yep, and so I guess I would recommend that the new house be constructed 10 or 20 feet back from the right-of-way, so it's closer in conformance to the zoning bylaw. Okay, so you've mentioned not reducing conformance, and this is one of the things asking for relief from, is that front yard. I realize it relates to the existing footprint, it relates to the existing foundation. And I guess that's a issue that the lawyer can speak to perhaps. So I wanted to make those 2 points, I guess. The new house is going to be constructed right next to the right-of-way and the road. I guess the alteration, it should eliminate nonconformity. So if the house was to be built 30 feet back, and it looks like from the footprint that it would be able to be moved back, 10 to 20 feet from the existing footprint, which would bring it much closer in conformity to the front yard setback. Also, there's a setback to septic systems. He's showing a 10-foot setback to the garage, to the septic system, so most likely the house wouldn't be able to be moved back any more than to be in line with the proposed garage. If that were to be done, it would be very close to a standard house with a garage. So I would suggest that be given consideration. Also, there's 2 existing trees that are right in front of the house that are within the town right-of-way. So question would be, what's the plan for those 2 trees? And I guess the other comment that I would make is that if it's determined that this is a special permit, then I would guess that the Board of Appeals has within their purview the ability to approve whatever conditions and modifications that are appropriate that they see, because it is a special permit only. And I guess, those are my main points, that it's really close to the road, and that I can't say that it would be detrimental to the neighborhood that it be constructed where it is, but I think it would be significantly preferential to the neighborhood if it was constructed 10 or 20 feet further back from the right-of-way and the road.
One question to you, sir. That the 2 trees, you've got them trimmed up about 30 feet high? Is that what you've done?
That's what it looks like,
I
30
can see
feet?
them in this picture trimmed all the way up.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Would you be interested in putting a new foundation in?
It would probably cost me $25,000 to $30,000, and I'd have to take that money from the house I was gonna build and build a less, I want the house to look nice.
Under
want
the
the- yeah.
regulation, it's supposed to stay the same. But personally, if you would like to do it, I would think that the board would consider that if you brought it back, that extra footage, it'd be good for the neighborhood, it'd be nice for him, and we could approve it that way and take away the limit of not allowing it, under the regulation that it's supposed to be the existing house.
Well, I think
know.
that's really a completely different,
Application.
because then you're talking
Yeah, well,
about,
that's something-
That's
it's
correct.
so much more. Also, I think you put in a new septic system in a way.
I think you've boxed yourself in, so you cannot
Put in a new.
I think he's got some,
Yeah, well,
some space.
The septic system's below the garage,
Oh.
Andrew, so he can bring the house down and leave it where it is and not go, if he can bring 15, 20 feet.
Bruce, would it
won't
still
anywhere
be,
near it.
would it still be non-conforming if I move it back 10 feet?
Yeah, it
Oh, yeah.
would still be non-conforming, so
But-
it wouldn't change anything.
Less non-conforming.
Less non-conforming.
Yeah, because I
But-
think
Yeah.
what
but
happened
still.
was, at some point in
No.
the 40s,
Yeah.
there was some deal to create this crazy small lot, and a house is built on it, and now there's this.
He would have to
legal
demo
issue.
the expense, first of all, the expense, and then, if he's gonna keep the same budget for the house, then you're gonna have less of a house that's gonna be built, just for the sake of a foundation that nobody sees, doesn't really, and you're still in nonconformity. And the other thing is, are we gonna create other problems by ripping out the foundation?
Is that foundation all stone?
It's poured concrete, sir.
It's all concrete with
Yes,
stone?
it is.
or-
Poured concrete. No stone.
So excavating that close to the right-of-way can cause some other issues. If there are some trees there that you want to save, and you start excavating in there and getting a machine in there, by keeping the foundation in there, any vegetation that's in there could be left untouched. But once you start digging in there, all bets are off as far as saving trees nearby, because it's
Yeah.
a whole different ballgame at that point.
Is your septic system sized for 3 bedrooms?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The other problem I see there with ripping out the foundation is staging for construction, because you can't put anything back by the septic system, that's off limits. So how would you do that? You'd have to be working in the right-of-way with a machine or something. I mean, you'd have to do everything from the west side. You are kind of boxed in from that standpoint. So if there's, obviously, it's nice to be able to put the house in the middle if there was enough of money to go around. Maybe we can get Donald Trump to throw in some cash to do that. But even so, the construction staging alone poses its own problems, even if there was not a cash issue.
So we were talking about possibly, we could take some action tonight, but my own view is I would rather hear what Aldo has to say about the 50% value thing. And how does the board feel about continuing it so we can get some advice from town council about that?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I
So
mean,
then, Lee, you have your issue about the 17th, but then here's the issue that we either go to the 17th or we kind of,
I've got the book of that.
Would it be able to
What about 6:30?
start earlier than 7 o'clock?
Oh, yeah.
okay, well, here's the issue with that.
The reason is,
Do we-
Andrew,
do-
that
do
if
we
you
might-
start before 7, at 10 or 7, then you can take Park Central and just continue them forward until we're done with these people here.
There's going to be a lot of people who are going to come for the Park Central thing, and I think that I would rather begin that at 7 o'clock. So, I mean, Paul was the one who didn't want to meet, multiple times this month. I can understand that, but if everyone's up for it, we could meet on the 24th. Karen's showing me the schedule.
I don't have a problem.
Or the other option is we go out to the third Wednesday of June, where we
Yeah.
would need, I think, an
That's
extension. from you.
excessively long, I
That's
think.
too long. They want to start doing this, right?
Yeah, we
Well-
moved the meeting a couple of times.
yeah,
Yep.
Andrew, I have a conflict on the 24th as well.
So
You want to do it on the 17th, and we'll just kind of find some way to make it work?
can we, I know you taking the train in, there's limited scheduling.
17 Park Central?
Yes.
So what to
But
do?
if we could do it at
Oh,
6,
let him finish.
if we could do it at 6:30, I think a half an hour would be close to sufficient.
Okay.
And then, for the people that are coming to Park Central at 7, it might be
Yeah.
5, 10 minutes late. That way Lee can be here for this. We close out that section and then Lee can depart and,
Either that, or you can do it the other way and schedule it for 9 o'clock. And that's
I
when you
would not
continue Park
recommend that
Central at
to
9
any-
o'clock.
yeah, I don't think once we
If
get
Park
into
Central
Park
gets
Central,
over
we're
at
gonna
9
stop
o'clock.
Park Central.
I don't think you can stop it.
No,
So-
9:30, you're
So
gonna put
I'm
in.
happy to start it. I can leave a little bit early. We can do this at 6.
Well, I'm down there too. I can
Got a
come
special
grab
bus
you.
6 PM?
Is that okay with
You
you?
got a
It should
special
be,
train?
yeah. No, it should be, I just, I
I'll
have
just
to,
draw it.
I
I
booked it
can-
for 7, I'll make it for 6
I can come
PM.
into Boston and grab you on my way out of town.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, besides that particular question as to the Section 6 finding or the 174-9E, all the other issues or questions, if they're all resolved at this point, that will make it easier than we have a limited agenda, right? Is that my understanding, correct understanding?
So I think that, also, town council's opinion might be, well, it depends. It's never been decided. Who knows? But if he says, you're right, then we proceed and we talk about whether to approve it or not, and then conditions. But if he says, no, our bylaw, that's correct, the way it is, then I think that basically ends it.
So, in your bylaw, right, 174E, actually, the very first requirement is the Board of Appeals finds that such extension, alteration, or change shall not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. So that's exactly that first question,
Okay, I
right?
think I know what you're
So,
saying.
so that is question 1, right? And then question 2 and 3 are what I'm
Okay.
taking the position that are not appropriate for this permit. So if we are able to limit what we need to seek your town council, Attorney Cipriano, to answer, it will actually help that meeting so that you folks can stay on
See,
time for
that's-
Park Central.
The thing is that if he agreed and thought about moving the house back that extra 20 feet, that would definitely clean up number 1.
But that's a totally different,
It's-
we would have to finish this application, they'd have to make a different application, we'd have to hear it
Correct.
another time.
And I think,
Because it's a
Same thing.
totally, with the notice to people around would be different than what this, I think that's, you're-
Right, because we're
That's
doing,
what they're asking for.
we're asking
I
for the,
understand that.
correct.
Well,
And
I'm sorry, you wanted to say something? I did. Can you use the microphone?
Yes, sure. And this would be certainly in the purview of the owner and of the board. but if, just a question, does the garage have habitable space on the second floor? Is it fully habitable, or is it more of an attic, or what's the intended, the space?
I think the plan said bonus room, but, I mean, one of the things we could have as a condition is that is not a bedroom, that's no bath there or anything like that.
I don't think their
the-
septic system
I
would
think
allow it.
I
Okay.
think they already have 3 bedrooms anyhow. A bedroom up there would be essentially
Right,
illegal.
I guess I was going to make the point, if building a new foundation is $20,000, then if that was more of a family room than an additional room, whether that would compensate for the $10,000 or $20,000 that an additional foundation. I mean, and I think that's still within the purview of the special permit granting of the board. Just an idea.
So
Yeah.
I think what you're suggesting is we come back we hear from town council, and even if he says that, no, the 50% value requirements, that's legal, then I think what you're asking is we should still make a determination about whether or not it's a substantially more detrimental, and then we'd have a decision where at least that was done, and then if you wanted to appeal the part that
Right,
you
in
didn't
any,
like,
in any
that would just
event.
be a pure legal issue that would go.
That's correct, because of that, in any event, that determination, whether or not reconstruction on this same footprint is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood,
Right.
either way needs to be made.
Because if we don't do that, the alternative is we get it wrong, and then it's litigated for 2 years, and then it comes all the way back, and we have to have the same hearing again, so.
So here's my view on what you're asking there. I know we talked a lot about, in theory, the water's going to be pitching and going in different directions. If we could actually get a written analysis of some modeling that shows that water will be going in different directions and what it actually means in terms of water cascading down the lot as it is now versus how it will be further, and some empirical evidence that A, it's not more detrimental, or even B, that it's beneficial. I think that will help, because you are definitely increasing the impervious surface on the lot, which without any other sort of mitigation is just a red flag that it's going to be more detrimental.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Debbie, did you have any comments or suggestions?
No, I agree with Craig. I just want to make sure that we're not just honing in on one particular aspect when we're meeting next time, that we're still considering whether or not this proposed change would be more detrimental, because I think it's very gray, and I think it deserves a lot of consideration.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I make a motion that we continue the public hearing until the 17th of the month, until 6:30.
I could do 6, give them a little more time.
Whatever, yeah? Is 6 good? Until 6 o'clock then, that's even better.
Okay.
I will second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Oh, well, we got some minutes too.
No, do we need to,
Do we need an extension of the deadline to make a decision?
deadline by 2 weeks?
Till June 28th.
I think we can,
So-
There.
I think we're good with,
I think you're good with the
Okay,
14
I just wanted to make
days.
sure we didn't have to
Okay.
do that this month. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so you voted to continue the hearing.
Thank you for your
okay,
time.
thanks.
I appreciate it.
Close the public hearing, or-
We'll do some minutes.
Yeah, okay. Let's see,
I thought this was gonna be the simplest thing, it's so
I
complicated.
know, huh?
You know, looking
okay.
at your picture, right?
Can I have this for the
Your
hearing file?
foundation, you ought to have somebody look
Do
at
you
it
need-
for you.
so if you need that-
Because you're only gonna do 2 walls. The other 2 walls can be all wood, because it walks out now. That'd make a big difference money-wise.
Okay. We already have that. Yep. Okay, this is a list of abutters. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, the hearing's closed, but I'm happy to take that from you now, but. Absolutely, we'll read it into the record at the continued hearing. I'm gonna make a reminder to do that.
Bye now.
Will Steve remind us at that
We
next
done?
meeting?
No, because we get minutes. Oh, all this stuff was underneath the,
What are the
Yeah,
minutes?
the pictures, yeah.
it's a very simple one. Oh, we just continued a hearing? That's all we're gonna vote on?
Yeah, the minutes.
All right, so yeah, so just a one short pager.
Okay, so. So, yeah, we're just voting on the minutes where we appeared in the Spanish language classroom of the elementary school.
This makes no notice of the Spanish,
Well, actually, these have been translated.
did the translate? Okay.
I don't have any questions with this.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
I move that we
I
approve the
abstain.
minutes
Okay.
from our meeting April 26, 2017, as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Okay. So noted.
I wasn't there.
Clearly.
And, motion to
I
adjourn?
so moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Yeah.
You said, yeah.